1923, Pine Barrens, New Jersey. 4 veterans out of Fort Dix were sent on a simple patrol. Missing folks, dead livestock, nothing we hadn't seen before. But the woods went quiet, the mules lost their minds, and something with hooves and wings came down on us like the night had teeth. By morning, one man was gone without a sound, and what we found out there has never left me. So before we continue, please make sure to like and subscribe to support the channel, and comment down below where you're watching from. Thanks. I didn't live this, my uncle did. Dix, 1923. He buried it deep. Only spilled it late at night, bottle near empty, house quiet. I'll give it to you the way he gave it to me. Late autumn, 1923. The Barrens were all bone and breath, pines thin as bayonets, sand roads like flour, cedar water is the color of tea no one asked for. Nights long and mean, cold enough to bite your fingers through wool. Prohibition in full swing. You could smell bad liquor if the wind turned right. You could smell poverty, too old smoke, wet wood, a kerosene sting, laundry frozen stiff on a line. There were 4 veterans, all of us, doughboys who'd done the France tour, now stuck at Camp Dix. Everyone called it Dix. Out past Wrightstown, you could hear the bugle on a good day. The brass said rural patrol. Transient issues, said the butter bar who tried to sound like he wasn't scared of the Barrens. Livestock torn up, dogs gone, a couple of names on the ledger listed as missing. Might be bootleggers, might be wolves, might be some drunk with a shotgun and a grudge. Go look, he said, and don't stir up trouble. Tob just looked at us and nodded once. That meant, do the job, come back alive, keep your trap shut. I was Pike, corporal then, thin, with a jaw that never stopped chewing tobacco when the cold came in. Sergeant Hale led us, tall, quiet, face like a busted fence post. Believer? Hard to say. He believed in doing the job. He believed in his men. He believed in rules that kept you breathing. Russo was the skeptic. City boy from Newark. Smart mouth, good shot with a Springfield, eyes that never trusted a thing that couldn't be taken apart and put back together with a screwdriver. Finch was the joker, Jersey local. Knew the back roads. Knew which cranberry men paid cash and which ones paid in Applejack. Talked too much, sang off key. He could make a mule keep walking by arguing with it. We drew 2 mules and a small cart from supply. Canvas rolls, rations, lanterns, a janky field radio that liked to die when you needed it. We kept our Springfields and our Colts. We threw in extra blankets because the Barrens don't care about your bones. We pushed out of Dix by mid-afternoon. Sugar sand made the cart groan and the mules swear in their own way. Pines in lines like skinny soldiers that lost their uniforms. Cranberry bogs flat and low with wind that cut at your cheeks. A farmhouse now and then, gray wood and wide eyes behind curtains. A schoolhouse with a bell that didn't ring much. A tavern that was not a tavern, if you get me. Everyone was sober if you asked. Everyone was drunk if you knew. Finch talked at the mule and then at us. Leeds devil, he said. They call it the Jersey devil now. Sounds dumber. He laughed at his own joke. Old story. Mother Leeds, somewhere out past Leeds Point, had too many kids. Cursed the last one in a bad night, and out popped something with hooves and a head like a horse and wings like a bat. That's the legend. Folks see things in the trees out here. 1909, they say it flew over half the state. Newspapers ran it. Russo snorted. Newspapers ran a lot of crap. You see, the one said a man gave birth to a cat. Still, Finch said, farmers won't move after dark. The school teacher down in Chatsworth won't ring that bell if the sky looks the wrong way. My uncle swears something screamed outside his shed and the shingles lifted like it was a big gust. He stays drunk so it won't try again. Hale let us talk. He saved words like he saved bullets. We rolled into a settlement with 3 houses and a storefront that sold nails and taffy. An old man in a hat with sweat salt on it leaned on the porch rail and watched us like we were ghosts. Hale asked about the reports in a voice that made people tell him the truth. Goats, the old man said. Ate up or just empty. Found one hanging from a cedar like a bad gift. I don't walk out at night. Not since my boy said he heard wings once, heavy wings. He said the air went sour. Russo looked at me in that way he did, like it was all a dumb story and we'd waste our time and come back with ticks and a report the lieutenant would skim. We stopped a little ways on at a farmhouse with yard chickens that moved like thoughts. The woman there had eyes like glass marbles. She said, "It's back." I told my husband not to go out, but he went. Said somebody was running hooch through the cedar cut and he could hear them rattling a chain. He didn't come back. I'm left with 2 mouths and a mortgage. So you go get your guns and talk to the trees and tell me what they say, Corporal. Hale thanked her. He left a couple of tins of meat on her table. From Uncle Sam, he said. She didn't smile. We made camp near a dry bog that looked like a flat grave, fire small. Sides to the wind, we smoked. We ate bacon that tasted like salt and sorrow. Russo told a story from the Argonne about a German who yelled at him to stop shooting and then threw down a sausage as a bribe. Finch said the German had the right idea. You never stop shooting, Russo. Hale stared at the tree line like it owed him money. I took first watch. The Barrens don't have much sound when the cold comes. Few owls, wind-cutting needles. Somewhere far off, a dog that wished it was a wolf. I felt the place pressing in. Old stories stick to trees. If you don't believe, they still cling to you. I kept my hands warm around a tin cup and kept my eyes up. A pickup rolled low on a sand cut. No lights. We could smell beer. All the beer smelled wrong after the war, like medicine gone mean. We stayed quiet. No one wants a shootout with bootleggers under pine. Toward midnight, a local man came off the road and warmed his hands at our fire. He had a face like bark. He stared into the flames like he was reading a sermon. You boys from Dix, he said. You'll find what's left. That's my bet. And it won't look right. You think it's wolves till you don't. Devil, Finch said. Light. The man spat slow. I don't loan names to things that take them for trophies, he said. You get me? Then he drifted back into the trees like the trees took him. Later, we bedded down. I wanted to be a skeptic. It sits easier than fear. But the night had a weight to it, like the woods had teeth. We moved at first light, frost on grass like glass dust, our breath like smoke, cart creaking, hoof prints in the soft shoulder, but not deer, too big. 2 toes, split, deep. Like a draft horse, but wrong. Russo said it was a prank, some jackass with boards cut like hooves. They did that in 1909 to sell papers. Finch didn't answer. He kept glancing up. Pine tops moved in no wind. You tell yourself, it's a hawk. Hawks don't bother you. They have jobs, and they do them. Down a side track, we found a goat, or what used to be one. It lay in cedar needles like someone had poured it out of a bucket. It wasn't eaten. Not like we knew eating. Skin cut in strips. No blood worth noting. Bones clean at the ends, like something sucked marrow out and snapped for fun. Hale crouched. He stared. He touched a rib with a stick, gentle as a priest. Dogs, Russo said, but it was weak. Dogs scatter. Dogs leave mess. This was tidy in a way that made my stomach tight. We pushed on. A schoolhouse with the door chained shut, though it was a school day. We knocked at the nearest house. A woman cracked the door. A little boy peered from behind her dress. Her hair was still wet from washing. She said the teacher had closed the school after hearing a scream that took the roof sound away. She said the bell rope shook by itself, the woman whispered. She said wings hit the window and went on. She made the sign of the cross. Russo looked away. At an old cranberry shed, a farmer told us he'd seen big tracks at the bog edge. Like a cow stood wrong, he said. He wouldn't go look again. He had a shotgun and a stare like he'd use it on us if we laughed. The night that followed had a taste. Metal on your tongue. Wind went dead around midnight. Owls shut their beaks. Something far off screamed once. Not Fox. Fox will fool you if you're new. This was deeper. Hell's own violin, if you like church talk. It went through me and took something I had not nailed down. Russo said it was a barn hinge. Hinges scream, he said. You grease them, they shut up. You go grease it then, Finch said. He tried to smile. It didn't stick. Hale cut the fire down to coals. Keep tight, he said. No wandering, not for a piss. Use a buddy bottle. He sounded like a sergeant. It helped. We picked a sheltered spot near a dry stream with cedar roots like claws. We set a small perimeter. It felt silly, a trench habit stuck on a New Jersey night, but you do what you know. Sometime after midnight, the mules went from asleep to panicked. No creep up. One moment quiet, next moment eyes rolled white. hooves pounding the sand like a drum corps. The ropes hummed. Finch got a hand on one halter. The other mule ripped free and bolted, cart axle bouncing and shrieking like it was alive. Then the screech came down, not far away now. It hit us from above. It hit the air so hard the coals puffed ash. None of us moved for a second. The sound told a story your head didn't want. I saw something cut the stars. Big, wrong shape. Wings for sure. Not a bird shape. It limped in the air like a bat drunk on heat. Hale brought his rifle up because he was faster than fear. Russo did too. I had my Colt out without thinking. Finch was still cussing the mule. The shape went through the treetops, snapped branches like twigs. Then the night shut tight again. Bird, Russo said. His voice was too high. Big damn bird. Crane maybe. Crane my ass, Finch said. He was shaking and trying to hide it. We sat watching the black. Nothing moved but breath and smoke. I heard a rattle out in the trees. Chain on wood. Then nothing. Then the woods give us back our heartbeat. We found the runaway mule at sunrise. Or what was left. It had gone down in a tangle of scrub oak. Something had worked it over. Bones cracked near the joints like you'd snap kindling to fit a stove. Hoof taken off clean, like a neat butcher had a bad day. No drag marks, no coyote mess. No tracks we could read, except for big two-toed marks sunk deep into sand where nothing heavy enough had any business standing. Russo and Finch went at it on the spot. Bootleggers, Russo said. They don't want us nosing around. They did this to scare us off. With what? Finch snapped. A saw and a horse on a rope and a crane in a tree. You hearing yourself? Shut it, Hale said. He sounded calm in the way a man sounds when he is past fear. We go slow. We mark what we see. We keep the cart light and the mules close. We tell the lieutenant his hooch boys are mean this year. And we don't put our backs to open ground. He was right to keep us busy. Work keeps you sane. But the mule's eyes stuck with me. Rolled forever to the left, like it had seen something in the branches and didn't believe it till it died. We went deeper. That was the job. The sand gave way to black muck and spots that promised to swallow a boot. We found an old shack with boards burned and walls scratched in long arcs that didn't match any tool I knew. A cooking pot lay on its side full of rain and dead leaves. A kid's marble hid under a charred beam. Finch pocketed it without smiling. Hobo camp, Russo said. Someone got a fire wrong. Hale ran a hand over the scratches. His fingers came back with splinters. Claw marks, he said. Just that. Then he moved us on. By afternoon, the land sagged into swamp. The pines there grow out of water like skinny soldiers on bad ground. We had to pick our way on a deer path that knew better than we did where to step. A wind blew through the treetops and didn't touch our faces. The light couldn't find us. Water sighed and made little mouths that popped shut. That was when the sky yelled at us. A screech like someone ripped canvas right over our heads. Trees shook like a truck went past, but there was no road. I saw a shadow slide along the water. Then something hit Finch and spun him. He fell into the mud with a sound like a boot leaving a trench. He screamed. I thought it got him, but it hadn't. Not fully. His coat had 4 long gashes on the shoulder, cloth peeled back like a tin lid. Underneath, skin raked to meat, not deep enough to take him out, deep enough to startle the life out of him. I got him up with a handful of belt and a shove. Russo put his back to mine and swept his rifle at the sky. Hale fired once at a branch that broke under a weight we couldn't see. The crack of the rifle sounded silly in that wet place. The thing above us kicked air and moved off. The water went back to making little mouths. We wrapped Finch with a clean bandage and told him the truth. You're not dying, Hale said. You look good. You just smell like a swamp, and that's a crime. Finch tried to laugh and almost did. We found a man that evening. A hermit, you'd call him if you liked words. Beard like gray moss. Clothes patched in 10 places. He had a small fire in a pit and a shack that leaned so hard it survived only out of spite. He watched us the way a fox watches something it might bite if it wasn't hungry. You're the army, he said, like it was a bad joke. You came late. What have you seen? Hale asked. The old man poked the fire. Mother Leeds had too many children, he said. She gave the last one to the wrong father. It came out wrong and ran into the Barrens, and it's been running since. It likes when folks don't believe. It likes the taste of that turning. I seen it once when I was a boy. 1909. Everybody ran their mouths that week. It flew over the school and men shot at it with bird guns, and it laughed. I saw it stand on a fence post like it weighed nothing, and I saw the post still standing after. It ain't a thing you chase. It's a thing that circles you till you quit. Russo shifted his boots. "You drunk," he said, trying to make it mean. The old man smiled and showed 2 teeth. "I don't drink," he said. "I hear it. Some nights it rattles an old length of chain like it's hauling something that ain't there. Some nights it screams and all the birds forget their names. Some nights it stands outside and says my name in the voice of my dead wife. I told her to leave and stop it. She does, mostly." Finch's face went pale in the firelight. Hale thanked the man and left some coffee and a can of beans. The man waved us off like we were bothering his peace. We moved again. I kept seeing the scratch lines in the burned house. I kept feeling the wind up in the trees that didn't touch us down below. If that place had a mouth, it was smiling. 2 nights later, it dropped in. We had set a small camp in a stand of pitch pine near a clearing. We kept the fire low under a scrap of tin we'd found so the flame wouldn't give away much. Stars were thin through the needles. The cold had come back mean. Finch's shoulder throbbed and made him short. Russo had quit talking as much, which was worse than his talking. Hale sat with his rifle across his knees like a promise. The night went still in a way that means something is walking. The mules pressed their ears flat. The coals hissed with a drop of something I could not see. A shadow came down like an answer. It landed by the fire and kicked sparks. It stood on 2 legs that bent wrong. Hooves hit sand with a hollow thud, like a keg dropped on a floor. The head was long and horse-shaped if a horse had been drawn by a shaking hand. Eyes like coals at the end of a tunnel. Mouth too wide. Teeth like a bucket of nails. Wings tucked and then went wide and threw heat off the coals back at us. The smell of it was like a bad barn mixed with something that lived in drowned wells. I moved without thinking. Training is a rope somebody else pulls. I fired the Colt into its chest. Hale fired the Springfield. Russo fired too. Finch screamed words that didn't fit any prayer book. The thing danced in the sparks and screamed back, and I felt it in my ears like hands. The bullets hit. I saw them hit. The thing jerked like we had insulted it, and then it folded the air and went up. It was fast. Too fast for anything that size. It hit the treetops and was gone, except for the sound of branches cracking like ribs. "Reload," Hale said, calm. He was shaking anyway. We all were. Finch sobbed and then snarled at himself for it. We didn't have time to argue on what we had seen. The night came apart again. Claws hit Finch before he heard them. It tried to lift him. He weighed more than a goat, but it gave it a shot. Hale grabbed Finch's belt and pulled like he was hauling a man from a shell hole. Russo jammed his bayonet up as the thing dragged Finch toward the edge of camp. The blade struck something hard like a plank. It scraped off and bit air. The thing jerked back. Finch landed on his face and ate sand. I saw footprints where it had stood, not horse and not man. Hoof marks split and deep, heavy ones. Weightless the next. My brain didn't like it. We poured fire at the trees. The mules screamed and kicked, and one went down hard from sheer panic. Then it all went still. The thing was gone again. The trees did their usual quiet. The smoke went up like it always had. We checked Finch. The claw marks were deeper now. Blood leaked down his side in sheets that looked black in firelight. He was awake and mad about it. He spit and said, "I'm not meat yet." We tried the radio, nothing but a buzz like someone humming in our ears. We tried the wire we'd strung back to a little relay we'd set on a line of fence posts to bounce a signal toward the road. Dead. The tiny lamp blinked once and then forgot it knew how. We tried the flare gun and it fired and made a pretty red flower through the pines, and the night ate it. "Tomorrow," Hale said, "we pull for the nearest farm and then Dix. We tell them what we saw. They won't believe it. They'll send more men anyway because they like their numbers. We'll walk in daylight and not waste time." It sounded like a plan. Plans don't do much in the Barrens. The place writes its own. We did not sleep. Not really. When I closed my eyes, I saw hooves twitching in ash. I saw eyes up in the canopy, not glowing like in stories, but catching light in a way that made you angry for looking. We pushed out at first gray. The path we had cut on the way in did not look the same. The Barrens shift on you if you don't keep steady. We kept steady. We used the compass. The needle shook like it had nerves. We found a cow slung up in a cedar, caught over a high branch by its rear legs like some giant had a dark sense of humor. The belly was open neat. The inside looked wrong to my eyes. The cow had not bled out like you'd expect. It was like it had been taken apart and then someone changed their mind. We all stopped for the same count and then walked again. Midday had no heat. The sun was a pale coin behind a dirty curtain. I heard chains rattle where there were no chains. It came and went. It sounded like a man dragging a length of something along a barn floor. Then it sounded like a woman's voice, saying a name that wasn't mine. Then it sounded like laughing, but it could have been crows. I chose crows. Choice didn't help. Night, the second. We kept the fire lower. We took watch in pairs. Rousseau took first with Finch because Hale wanted eyes on the wounded. Finch snapped at him and said he didn't need a nurse. He did. He needed two. Somewhere between midnight and dawn, Finch wasn't there. He had been there. Rousseau swore it. I turned, he said. I turned this way and counted 10 and turned back and he wasn't there. We found his rifle in the pine duff. Safety off. A smear of blood like someone had dragged a wet rag once and stopped. No tracks you could trust. Everything was needles and sand. I called his name and then I shut up because calling felt like an invitation. Hale stood with his head tilted like you do when you're trying to hear through the gap where your heartbeat sits. The Barrens are a maze when you're calm. That night it was a prison. Someone kept moving the walls on. We held the lantern up and saw eyes back in the brush. A deer, I told myself, but the eyes were too far apart. Deer don't lean their heads like that. Deer don't blink in a way that feels like you blinked for them. Rousseau started to come apart. He blamed Hale. He blamed me. He blamed Finch for cracking jokes. That's what fear does. It tries to break the only rope you've got. Hale took it like he took rain. It fell on him, and he kept going. At first light, he said, we track what we can. We don't run blind now. That's how men get lost in dying fables. I sat my watch and listened to the trees breathe. I thought about France. I'd seen men blown into mist. I'd seen horses die and smile because their faces were built that way. This was worse in a quiet way. Trenches were honest. Kill or get killed. The Barrens wanted to shame you first, to call you by names you didn't tell anyone, to make you help. By dawn, we were 3. I said his name once more, and then I stopped, because he was gone in a way that meant the woods had his story now. We didn't argue about it. We set to making a trap because doing nothing would kill us quicker. We had some sticks of dynamite from the Cranberrins crew we'd talked to the week before. They used them to bust up old bog dams. Hale asked and they shrugged and said, "Don't blow your toes off, soldier." We also had a few flares and a coil of wire and a brain full of bad ideas. We picked a clearing edged with pitch pine. Dry needles all around, resin heavy. We scraped a shallow ring and filled it with brush and split fat wood that took a spark like it had been waiting. We wired the dynamite to stakes inside the ring and ran the fuse to a spot behind a fallen log where we could set it off with a pole on a friction lighter tied to a string. It wasn't pretty. It would have made a sapper weep, but it would make fire and concussion. Maybe that would do something. We set bait because the thing liked that. We hung bloody cloth from Finch's bandage on a stick. It felt wrong. It felt like blasphemy. Hale did it anyway, with a face like a man digging a grave for someone who owed him money. We put the field radio near the ring with the little lamp on. It ticked and hummed like a bug. Maybe the thing liked noise. We waited. Afternoon drifted brown. Evening put the light out with her heavy hand. A wind came up and didn't move the trees. Then it moved them all at once. We held our rifles and pretended we were not holding our breath. I thought I heard Finch laugh in the trees. Then I thought I heard my mother say my name. That was a neat trick because she didn't have that voice anymore and she wouldn't have called me that way. I told the trees to go to hell. Quiet, to myself. It came low and mean. No screech at first. No show. Just a shadow that slid between trunks and then broke the edge of the clearing like it owned taxes on it. It hit the sand and the hooves made that same hollow sound. It stood there and looked at the ring like it could read our minds and was bored. We saw it full then. I don't care what the papers draw. They make it cute. This wasn't cute. The head had long lines like a horse, yes, but the eyes were forward like a predator. The skin wasn't fur and wasn't hide. It was old leather stretched wrong. Wings unfurled and the membranes made the firelight go gray. A tail flicked with a fork like a branch broken and angry. The chest rose and fell slow and heavy like a bellows. Hale whispered, "On me." We waited for it to step into the ring. It did because it was either arrogant or stupid or just old and didn't care. It leaned its head to the bloody rag and snuffed like a mule. Then it snapped the stick and chewed the cloth in one bite with a noise like wet paper. That was my life, right there. A stupid detail I can't shake. The chewing. Hale tugged the string tied to the lighter. The lighter sparked. The fuse hissed and ran like a snake. Fire took the fat wood in a rush and went high. The ring became a wall. The thing opened its mouth and screamed. Not just noise. It put words in my head I don't want to set down. It told me how I'd die and who I'd disappoint on the way. It told me my sins. It had a long list. We opened up. The Springfields cracked steady. We learned that in France, don't waste it. Make the hits count. The Colt jumped in my hand. Rousseau shouted something from the gospel of go to hell and kept firing. The rounds hit. I saw blood, or something like it, spray off the shoulder and the rib line. The thing bucked. It wasn't a ghost then. It bled. It tried to go up. The fire pushed it back. The wings flapped and the gust almost threw sand in our faces. It stooped and charged the edge of the ring where we'd left a gap on purpose. Hale stepped in and drove his bayonet low and up like you do on a man. The blade met meat. The thing screamed in the new key. It smashed Hale with a sweep of wing that sent him into the sand like a dropped sack. Rousseau leaped and buried his bayonet in the creature's flank, near the place where a man's kidney would sit. It thrashed and its hoof tore a stripe down Rousseau's leg that laid the meat open. The dynamite went, not all at once. A cough first, then a slap that blew heat into our teeth. Then a big shove in the chest that pushed the creature sideways. A piece of it splashed a fire and popped. The world rang like a church. I saw the thing on its side, legs kicking like a horse in a chute. I put 2 rounds into the head and 1 into the shoulder. It wasn't right to aim for the head. You do it anyway. The smoke grabbed us and whipped us around. I lost track of the ring. I lost track of Hale. I saw Rousseau on the ground trying to pull his leg back together with his hands. I moved to him and something caught my coat and threw me into a stump. The stump broke. My breath left me for a count of 10. The thing towered over me. It bled. Dark and slow. It bled like a pump with no water left. The eyes were wrong. They were not mad. They were bored. It bent its head. I jammed the Colt up into its mouth and fired till the slide clicked empty. It jerked back, not from hurt but from surprise, like I had spit in church. Hale came into the edge of my sight like a ghost with a shovel. He swung the shovel into the wing joints where the leather met bone. You can kill anything that flies if you break the hinge. The shovel bit. The thing screamed low, not a challenge now. A pain noise, music to my rotten ears. It sprang. It did not leap like a deer. It sprang like anger itself. It smashed through the burning ring. It took fire with it. It left a hoofprint in the sand that filled with a dark liquid that wasn't blood. Then it was in the trees, slamming branches and making the night go bright and dark, with the flames on its hide. We chased, because men are dumb when they are winning. The trees swallowed it. The scream went long, then far, then everywhere. Then it gave a last one that sounded like a laugh pulled slow over a file. Silence landed like snow. We had 1 dead. I didn't know it right away. I looked around for a count and didn't see Finch because he was already gone the night before. Then I saw the other. Rousseau lay on his back and watched the sky. The cut on his leg had gone too deep. The blood had pumped out fast while we were busy. He had his hand on his rosary like he was mad at God and pulling him down by the chain. He didn't blink when I said his name. I took the rosary and put it in his pocket. Hale signed himself out of old habit. We were 2 then, and raw. We put out what we could of the fire. The ring had done its work and tried to do more. The Barrens liked to burn. We killed flare spots with sand and with our coats. Hale's hands looked cooked by morning. Blisters bubbled up like wet pearls. Somewhere as dawn rubbed at the sky, we heard it again, far off. A scream like anger, but tired now. The echo rolled through the pines and found me. It made a little home in my chest that it kept for years. We walked. There wasn't much else. We fixed a stretcher for Russo, but halfway through we set it down. He wasn't coming. We covered him with a canvas and pinned it with stones. We marked the spot in Hale's notebook and in my head. We promised we'd come back with men and a priest. We did. Later, we staggered out of the scrub into the edge of a settlement by late afternoon. The Barrens will toy with your sense of time. It felt like we'd been out there a year. Two men from a farm with faces like old leather saw us and did not ask questions first. They got us into a kitchen that smelled of onions and boiled coffee and mud. They gave us blankets and water and whiskey the law didn't like. They moved like they had dressed wounds before, and maybe they had because the Barrens cut you without asking. A woman with a baby on her hips said, "Devil," and crossed herself, and no one told her to hush. Hale's hands shook when he tried to drink. Mine would not let go of the cup unless I told him twice. A boy ran for the sheriff. A man rode for the telegraph and mumbled he'd patch a line that got mysteriously dumb when the weather was clear. By night, the place had too many lamps and too many voices. A doc came in a buggy and looked at us the way a man looks at a job you don't like but will do anyway. He stitched Hale where the wing had smashed him. He wrapped my ribs. He said not much, and that helped. Back at Dix, the butter bar wrote a thing: wild animal attacks. The typed words sat straight and proud. He asked questions like he was reading a cookbook. He didn't like our answers. The captain above him didn't like them either. There's an economy to truth in the Army. You spend it careful. They said you saw a big deer. You saw a big bird. You saw bootleggers doing rough work. Hale stared at a point in the wall. I lit a cigarette and smoked it down to the paper and didn't taste it. Top came by later. He had eyes that had seen too much but didn't talk about it. He told me, quiet, you did what you could. You brought back who you could. That's the job. He left a flask on my locker and didn't look back to see if I used it. We went back with a detail to get Russo. We found him where we left him because the Barrens had decided not to argue. The place of the ring was there too, black and wide. The hoofprints had gone like they had never existed. Birds sang morning songs like idiots. The trees acted like trees. It was almost funny. They put Finch on a list. Missing. The list got folded in a file. That file went in a drawer. That drawer went into a room that smelled like dust and oil. The room got cleaned once a year, whether it needed it or not. That's how it goes. Hale made it a few more years in uniform, and then his back caught up with him, and he bought a small store near Pemberton. He sold nails and taffy and talked to no one unless he had to. He'd stand on the porch when it got late and look toward the trees and not blink for a long time. He died with his shoes on, standing. His widow said he was stubborn to the end, like the pines. I left the Army and ran freight for a while. Married a woman who could cook beans 10 ways and one good. Had a son who grew like grass. Laughed easy. I didn't take him into the Barrens. There's places you don't bring your future. Sometimes, when the sky goes iron before snow and the wind holds its breath, I hear that chain rattle, a length of metal on wood. Then a voice tries my name on like a coat. I don't answer. You don't answer that kind of call. You let it pass. You let it look in your window and see nothing at once. You'll say it's a story. A campfire thing with smoke in your eyes. I get that. I liked being a skeptic too. It sits easy. You sleep good. If that holds for you, keep it. I won't steal it from you. But out there, past the last porch lamp, past the cranberry bogs, past Batstow where the old ironworks rotted and fed stories, there's a place that curves away from how the map says it should. In that curve, something walks that doesn't answer to your words. It doesn't care about your gun unless the fire touches it. It will test your rules and take a little piece of you. You'll leave it behind and swear it never happened, and then one day you'll find it in your pocket, warm. You'll throw it in the river. It will wash up on your step. The school bell in Chatsworth doesn't ring on some days when the sky has a certain taste. The older folks turn their chairs in and sit with their backs to the window when the light goes yellow. The farmer with the shotgun keeps it near because he knows what not to aim at. If you ask in a loud voice, folks will shrug and tell you foxes scream and boys prank with boards cut like hooves. If you ask quiet and by a stove at night, one or two will tell you a version of what I told you. They'll look at the door when they say it. They'll look up at the roof once. They never call it by name. Names give things a key. We're not that dumb, not out here. The army wrote its paper and moved on. It had big wars to get ready for. The file on our little patrol kept its dust. Men came and went, and the Barrens stayed, and the thing that lives like a rumor stayed with it. The legend never died. It got new teeth with every winter. It waits for the next set of boots that don't listen when a woman in a farmhouse says don't go out after dark. So that's the end of our video. If you made it this far, make sure to hit like and subscribe. It really helps the channel and it's free. And if you want more terrifying encounters like this one, check out the other videos on screen right now. Thanks for watching and stay safe out there. See you soon.